So, Tyler, I know some big news throughout the MLB last week that kind of pertains to the Cubs a little bit in a bad way, but what do you got?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing in regards to the Cubs because uh, what you're talking about is Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers, and we talked about it probably months ago now that yeah, the Cubs probably weren't going to make much of a run at re-signing him, and honestly, and I don't know how much of this is true, but just some of the stuff that's came out about Kyle Tucker even before he signed with the Dodgers about how maybe he doesn't really love baseball that much, and there's talks of him already thinking about his retirement stuff because so he signs with the Dodgers for a boatload of money, surprising to no one. And there's all this talk that he had a 10-year offer from the Blue Jays, and instead he takes it was a 4 or 5 year deal with the Dodgers. I don't know the exact specific of the year wise, but $240 million, 4 year, $240 million. He's gonna make $60 million a year, which is just absolutely absurd.
Thank
Um,
goodness the Cubs didn't give him that contract. As
right,
a Cubs fan, I would have been so ticked. We would have handcuffed ourselves for years. So
exactly.
yeah, that's like a win for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just some of the ripple effects. If you're on social media or chronically on Twitter like I am, all the people that, think this could mean we might not get baseball on time next year. Obviously, the new CBA or the current CBA runs out after this year, so there's talks that, there's probably going to be some sort of lockout going into 2027, and honestly, a lot of it revolves around just the type of spending the Dodgers do because now this takes them over the luxury tax so much that what they're going to pay in luxury taxes is more than 10 plus MLB teams' entire payroll for next year, which is just absurd. And honestly, I think it says a lot about the ownership problem they have in baseball right now. I'm not going to get into that fully on this podcast, but yeah, so you got Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers. They're absolutely loaded again. I feel like as a baseball fan, you're like, oh, what were their biggest weaknesses last year? It was, bullpen, and then they needed another outfield bat. So what do? They go sign Edwin Diaz, maybe the best closer in baseball, and then they get Kyle Tucker, who, when he's healthy, he's awesome, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, so good for the Dodgers, I guess. But then also Bo Bichette signed with the Mets. I know he was one of the biggest remaining free agents still out there. Obviously, old friend of your guys is Cody Bellinger still out there. Not sure what's going to happen there. Part of me thinks he's going to end up with the Yankees, end up back with the Yankees, but who knows? But there's your weekly MLB talk.
Well,
Yeah,
interesting on that because the Yankees, I believe they came out and said that Bellinger was their top priority, over a Kyle Tucker, and I would argue I know Tucker the second half he was not himself, but he's probably a higher level prospect at the moment than Bellinger. Um, and it was just interesting that they prioritized Bellinger over him. So maybe they knew something that we didn't, and now that we all kind of stuff has come out, we do kind of know. But I don't know, found that interesting.
Well, just in general, the money that guy was gonna warrant, like you're either in and it's this guy's worth it, or I'm sure they're talking to agents throwing out money, and it's okay, we'll move on, we'll go to something way more realistic, and there's probably only a market of 2 to 3 teams that would want to pay him what he was asking for. Hey, shout out to him for getting paid. I mean, if you can get it, go get it. But yeah, the Dodgers, it's pretty crazy what the rest of the league's up against.
Yeah, and I know obviously for the Cubs, probably has some sort of ripple effects. I know I was parading you guys as a potential World Series contender on this podcast last week. I still feel that way. I know you guys might not be there yet, but just from the outside looking in, I mean, the Cubs got a lot of good stuff cooking right now, in my opinion. We were kind of talking offline. Gavin saw that, you guys are still somewhat in on Zach Allen, which I think's encouraging because we talked about this too last week. Ricketts, the fear might be that he's going to move a Nico Horner or somebody like that to shed some payroll so they're not up against the luxury tax. So, and I thought I saw somewhere where he said he's not planning on shedding any more payroll. So, hey, if they're not going to shed any more payroll and they're also still in on Zach Gallen, I think that's awesome for you guys, because I think if you can get a Zach Gallen in that rotation, it just makes you guys even more dangerous. And like, that's probably going to be how you're going to have to beat a team like the Dodgers, to just have a really good pitching staff. And like, what's nice is like the Cubs could have a really good pitching staff, and I think that lineup's already incredible. So especially adding an Alex Bregman. So who knows? It'll be fun to watch.
So I am a little surprised to hear that they'd be interested in another starter, because wouldn't that be 7 potential starters that the Cubs would have, like in the
You can
on the
never
40-man?
have too many starting pitchers in Major
Well,
League
so my
Baseball.
thought
in my
with it is,
opinion.
can we flip somebody for a back end guy? Like, okay, you signed Zach Gallen, now you have a surplus of starting pitchers. Your maybe weakness, I don't know if that's what you want to call it, but a spot that I think you could upgrade would be a back end dynamic type arm. So do you take one of the younger pieces that, their stock is sky high right now, before you have to pay them a huge extension or, a huge contract, and you try to get a back end guy? I don't know, but these are the thoughts that I would have. Like, okay, do you really, like, if you are in the Cubs position, why are you paying them? Like, shouldn't you maybe extend Nico? Like those type of things. But hey, if they're going to be aggressive, I am here for it. Like you're saying, like, I think the Cubs are in a really good spot no matter what right now. And if if status quo stays as it is, like I'd be really happy, because they could always make a move at the deadline, see how the season, like, who knows. So no, good things over there though on the north side.
Well, and especially, I don't know if you guys saw this, but to make matters, worse for the rest of the league, supposedly the Dodgers are in on getting Freddie Peralta from the Brewers, which would have some ripple effects for the Cubs. I know the Brewers have devil magic. I just can't prove it yet. But like how they're so good every year with like sometimes just random people, it's so impressive. It's honestly a credit to like their scouting staff and their front office. But like, all right, if you take Freddie Peralta off that Brewers team, obviously they'll probably replace him with somebody who just comes out of nowhere and happens to be just as good or if not better. But like him going to the Dodgers, getting off that Brewers team, to me would make the Cubs slam dunk favorites to win the division. I'm of the mindset where like I just think the Brewers are going to win it until I'm proven otherwise at this point. Like they just have something cooking right now, especially with Pat Murphy up there. It's honestly incredible to see. I know we get some behind the scenes stuff with our guy Vinny Rotino doing great stuff with the Brewers as well on the TV side of things. So we get some of the info there, but yeah, I don't know. But to your point, Drew, I feel like you can't trade from your pitching staff, like your starting rotation. I feel like that's kind of what bit the Cubs in the butt last year, right? Like Steele going down, Imanaga was rough down the stretch, and then Cade Horton getting hurt. So you just never know. In my opinion, you can't ever have too much starting pitching in today's MLB, especially with how often pitchers get hurt too. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast anymore. Like guys don't really throw 200 innings anymore. It's pretty crazy. I bet, especially like Drew, the baseball you grew up with, like that was the norm. Like guys throwing 200 innings. Like I know it was
Back
when I was
in the
little
1940s
too.
when I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah. Not trying to date you or anything, but like it's crazy
No,
how
you're
much the
right.
game's changed. Like
Yeah,
especially with
guys.
starting
I mean,
pitchers. So
guys would refuse to let the coach take the ball in the eighth inning. Like the thought back in the day was, hey, if I start the game, I'm going to finish the game. And you said it about the Brewers, and I think I wanted to shout out Vinny too, because like, hey, anybody that's interested in this podcast, like you should check out the Wisconsin podcast. They've had a bunch of Brewers guys on. Chris Hook, you kind of speak of this devil magic up there. Like I think he's a huge reason why the Brewers have been so good with their arms. The pitching coach, and Vinny raves about him. They had him on the podcast. Like go check it out if you have any interest in Major League Baseball, the NL Central, Milwaukee, whatever. I think they do a really good job top to bottom, and especially according to Vinny, just a lot of really good people in their organization that are, all working together and have a really good plan. And yeah, they've the way they have made guys, something out of nothing basically, or revived guys is really impressive.